We will.
Looks like it's worked.
It looks like it. Hopefully we. Oh, look, we're live. That was fast. It doesn't always work so fast. Okay, now I've got double sound, but we are here. Welcome everyone to. We've got our Stacked Live today. We're talking with Sophie Drummond. She's from TruthWorks. She's director of product there. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about how we're finding trusted HR talent. And we're talking about that in the context of like fractionals, externals, people who are not an employee of the business. We have quite a um, standard method for hiring, right? Until it comes to, hey, we actually need like a temporary person to come in, or a fractional, or a whatever freelancer to do this specific thing, and they need a specific skill set for that, project. And
Yeah.
then suddenly we go, oh God, does anyone know anyone? And next minute you're like, do you know someone? Have you got on your in your network on LinkedIn trying to find someone, right? So that's the kind of question we're answering today, and we're going to have a little bit of chat about that. I think it's becoming more and more of an important topic, especially as the kind of the makeup of our workforce changes. So we're going to get into that. Thank you all for joining. If you're here today live on the YouTube, please make sure that you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We can answer them. And we're going to go through a little bit about, again, this topic, how we're finding solutions to this, but also Sophie's going to take us through TruthWorks, which is a new platform which actually enables us to do this and find people much, much faster than traditionally. And we're going to kick off firstly with Sophie, tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about you.
I will. Hi, everybody. Lovely to be here. So I am the Director of Product and Engagement at TruthWorks. I have spent most of my, well, actually all of my career working in the people and culture space. Started out in agencies and grew up and scaled through the agency model. Have worked with a multitude of clients on probably most challenges we can think of across Europe, across the world. And now I find myself in a really exciting business, the TruthWorks, where I have been helping design and build a platform that we're really hoping is going to solve some of this finding fractional talent that is trusted, and solve that problem for many clients. So, yeah, looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, when I was in, so I used to be a director of HR in my former life. Feels like forever ago, but it was only a couple of years ago. And we had like a lot of projects going on. We had a lot of very specific work we needed done. We needed very specific skill sets. And one of the challenge was, I think an example of this was like people analytics. We needed someone quite senior people analytics, but we also needed someone quite senior in comp, and we didn't need them forever, but we needed them for a period of time. Finding those people was like finding a needle in a haystack. Like we called on literally our entire network through investors, through this, through that. Like it was an awful process. And we ended up not finding anyone for comp. And we did end up finding someone for people analytics, but you know, it wasn't the most smooth process. It took a lot of time. And you think about fractional or getting a freelancer in as someone who's it's a lot faster, right? And you can get them moving and they can get in and they've got the context, they've got that experience that you need and they can kind of hit the ground running. And we just really found it such a challenge. And this was probably, at least 5 years ago now.
Mm,
And there probably wasn't as much fractional talent on the market. It wasn't as normal to have people coming in this capacity or in freelance capacity, especially not into HR. But I think I read recently Gartner said something like by 2027, 30% of mid-sized businesses will have one fractional executive, which is crazy.
amazing.
Um, but I think we can kind of see why. So that being said, what do you find, why do, like, you must have seen this in the market too, right? What
Yeah.
do you think is the biggest challenge that companies face when it comes to finding this kind of talent? Like, why is this a problem for us?
Mm. I think it's probably a few things. I mean, one thing we have seen dramatically over the last sort of 5 years with HR teams is their remits have expanded, right? So they are expected to be so much for the business. They're expected to lead transformation, shape culture, drive business performance, and they just simply don't have the skills in-house, specialist skills to do everything that needs to be done. So, like always, and like you would have experienced, they're looking for that freelance fractional support, but finding them is impossible because the reality is unless you're getting a good recommendation or it's someone you know, a colleague's recommended, and you're one of the lucky ones there, the alternative is a post on LinkedIn. And I can speak for personal experience with what that actually feels like. So you put a post up and then you're flooded with hundreds of comments and tags and DMs. And then the hard work is back on that team, that person, to verify, go through, check their credibility, experience. And all of a sudden, what was meant to be something they were bringing into the team to speed things up has now just added a whole new level of workload that they have to go through. So we're finding that there is loads of incredible independent talent out there, but they're remaining essentially invisible to businesses because we haven't found a way to connect the two. And I find it really problematic because in so much of like my personal and professional lives, and we'll all experience this, when we've struggled to find a person or a service, we've built apps, we've developed tech, we've found the solution to connect that need, whether that's like booking holidays through Booking or Airbnb accommodation or Uber transport or like Creative Resource. There's many platforms that can do that connection piece. I just don't think we've done it well yet in HR. So it just leaves leaders with limited choice on how they find that talent. And I think particularly with when you bring in the procurement process, which is something I've got a lot of experience in from my history of sort of onboarding clients, that task is laborious. And like you were saying, Jess, you might need this particular skill set and that particular skill set. And what that could mean in reality is 3 different procurement contracts, months of negotiation, rate cards, and then every time you want to make a change in scope, having to go back through all of that. So you needed that resource now, but you won't get it for 3 months because sometimes for some businesses, it takes that time.
Yep. This actually brings me back to, so in Australia, there's quite a common thing to have contractors or to have like external
Mhm.
people come in, especially in the government where I was working prior to moving to Germany. And so I was on contracts quite often. I was doing project work, I was doing transformation work. And so they are like, you need you 6 months or 1 year, and that's, you're in and you've got a very specific skill set, and then contract ends and you move out. And there were, um, you know, agencies or platforms that basically you could, apply into be part of their network of professionals, and they would then put you forward where you meet, certain requirements or whatever it might be. Worked very, very well. Then I came to Europe and I was like, this is like missing. This facilitation is missing, especially this professional level. I think I always imagine this as like an Upwork, if everyone's kind of heard of Upwork or Fiverr. You know, I've used them for my business. They're awful, I must say, to work with, to be honest. You don't really know what you're getting, regardless of the reviews that are on there. Um, it's very clunky. You've got to work through their comms platform. It's very inflexible and impersonal. And I think when you have like really experienced, people and you want to bring them into your team, especially in the HR team, like you want to know who these people are, you want to work with them closely. We haven't solved that yet. And so I'm really excited to see how you're actually solving this. And because I haven't seen the platform, everyone. So we're going to see it first time today, about how, we can connect to that talent that's there. Because I
Yeah.
tell you what, you look on LinkedIn and like literally every second person I feel like is now, maybe it's just my own little bubble, but it's like, I'm fractional, I'm available. And they're all amazing people. I've got amazing experience. But like, you see that one post one time, if you don't save it, like you've forgotten who they are, if they're not in your network, like it
Yeah.
shouldn't be up to the LinkedIn algorithm whether or not we find these people. So yeah, super excited for what we're going to see.
Yeah. And I think, Jess, actually, your point there is such a valid one that it's not what people aren't necessarily looking for is a listings directory of all the talent that is out there. And that sort of word trusted comes into what we do a lot because I think for clients who are time poor, they don't want to have to do that verification themselves and
Yeah.
check credibility. So we put quite a lot of emphasis on our verification process. So you know what you're getting is more of a curated pool of talent. And these are really the best of the best out there. And it's not a quick or an easy thing that we're doing. It takes time to go through that process. Experts are having to submit pre-work, case studies, and answer questions. There's a stage 2, which is a live interview with one of our leadership team where we'll deep dive into their experience, see how they approach different client challenges. So it's not a quick thing, but it's what we need to be able to give that reassurance that when people are using the platform we have, they know they are looking at pre-verified experts who have been rated and reviewed as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think trust is always going to be the key thing with this.
I do love that. I think that's also where you go for the referral, don't you? Because you know someone who knows that person's, delivered before. So this is kind of like that at a bit more of a scale. So if they're
Yeah.
not in your network, you can find them. So why don't you get your screen up? We'll show everyone what it looks like, how you can kind of work through it. Because from what I understand, Sophie, it's free to create an account. You can go in and have a look. So if you're like looking today for talent, you can literally like go and create an account, go in and like browse who might be available. Um, that's powerful in itself. We don't really have that until now. So I'm like, can I have this 5 years ago, please? Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Well, yeah, it's completely free for clients to sign up. The actual sign up from a client perspective is really quick and simple. Like I've been saying the whole time, we're trying to make it as easy as possible and save time for the people using it. So sign up is free. It just takes a couple of minutes. And once one contract is signed, this is essentially giving you access to hundreds of verified experts. So we have a client dashboard, but the most exciting part of this, which is where we spend most of the time, is where we can see these verified experts. We spent a lot of time looking and speaking to the marketplace and the clients to understand how they would use and how they would filter so they can find the exact talent they need quickly. So we put quite a little bit of work into being able to bring into different specialisms, different filters, so clients can navigate through, they can select the types of people they're looking for and start to see that list get shorter, so they're almost curating for themselves. We also include a lot of language and location support for lots of clients, being able to access people that are local to them, that can come into the office and work directly with the teams, or
Oh,
perhaps,
that's cool.
yeah, facilitate in a local language, which is a really key thing we're seeing a lot of with clients, where actually they need people that can come and speak a local language. They don't want this just to always be English
Yeah.
based. So we're offering that as well.
Interesting. And do you have the option like, is this just for like longer things, or is it could be like I want a workshop from an expert for a day? Is that something I can also book?
Completely, yeah. And I think the real gem about this is it's putting that flexibility and the ownership back to the clients on how they spend their budget and they use resource. They're not having to go to a big agency, sign up to a big contract with a big budget. They can actually say, do you know what, we're really stuck at the minute for a workshop, or we just need a couple of days support to help us solve this particular challenge. So they can use it really flexibly, all the way from small engagements up to actually we're going through a bit of a transformation, we just need someone 2 days a week for a couple of months. And finally, they can also almost handpick their A-star team with this. If they had a big project or initiative and they just couldn't take it on internally, they could select a few individuals, add them to the shortlist, which I can show you in a second. And then from that, they have this amazing team that they can hand a project over to completely. And because our experts are all in a community together, a lot of them know each other quite well. They've worked together in the past. So you're really getting a bit of a hive mind when you're tapping into the experts.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. And how does it work with, like you said, you talk about the procurement being easier. Am I, as a business, am I contracting directly through you? Am I contracting directly with each of them? Or how does it work in terms of that, process from start to finish? Is it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so to make it as easy as we can, we will have clients sign a contract with us and we will have experts sign a similar contract with us. So that's how we can guarantee all experts are on the same contract and abiding by the same contract as the clients have signed. So because it's almost that like back-to-back contract, it means no matter what expert you're viewing on the platform, you know that they have signed the same T's and C's that the client, have signed up to with us. When we get to booking a specific project, that's where we will be a little bit more niche into what that project T's and C's are. So if there's any assumptions or exclusions, and you can see here a bit of an example of this would be once an expert has filled in a scope of work on the platform and sent that out for signing, this is really what's captured in the platform. So we can see the whole brief, we can see the scope, the breakdown of those deliverables, what the milestones are, what the assumptions and exclusions are, the agreed financials. If this was on a day rate, then this would be the number of days agreed, any files. And because that's a contract that both the expert and client sign, they're then both bound to this. So it's giving that sort of transparency and fairness across both sides.
That makes it much easier, doesn't it? I mean, just the effort and annoyance of, doing all that scope of work and I don't know, like putting it, where is it located and who's got it and centralizing that when you're working with like four, five, six different people, this in itself just like helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's great. Really, really cool. And how long does it take, generally speaking, from like, okay, I want someone, I go in here to like, I've got someone starting. Like, can that be, how fast can that be?
It can be really fast. We work quite hard with the clients and their procurement teams if necessary to keep that moving as quickly as we can. But because a lot of our experts are independent and they have flexibility in their work and their diaries so far, they're all coming onto the platform ready to take on work. So, for example, we've had two bookings in the past week, as in they were booked on Thursday, the experts are starting work today. And that's not an
Fantastic.
exaggeration.
Super
It's
fast.
quick. Yeah, yeah. And we do see that with a lot of clients who are saying or coming to the platform because actually they need a quick workshop to help them solve this particular
Mhm.
challenge, or they need to plug someone into their away day or conference that they're running. So that speed and the agility in which clients and experts can work together has been like a key point for us.
Very, very cool. And someone's asked in the chat, is this Europe only? I mean, I think there's a heavy focus on Europe, but I don't think that stops Europe, US or other companies booking someone as long as they can work out the time difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But we also have quite a few American experts on the platform.
Yeah,
We have some from LATAM. So it's, although we started out and there's been a lot of European experts, it is definitely global. We
yeah,
have one client who is currently using it to roll out training programs, and they're rolling that out in a local language in 16 different markets
crazy.
across the globe, not just Europe. And all of those experts have been able to be found through the platform. So it's giving them, I mean, that's a great example of where a client who's always been stuck having to deliver training in
Mhm.
English can now offer to their markets training in local languages because they finally have access to trusted facilitators that they know can come in and deliver that work.
I mean, and it sounds so simple, right? It sounds like, why can't this be so easy? Well, now it can be, but like, it just seems like, why hasn't this been in this, especially in the HR space? I think there's so many disciplines,
Yeah,
and so many, expertise areas that like the HR people function cover, that it
exactly.
is actually very difficult to get sometimes someone who does this and someone who does that, and like you said, in different languages and quickly and onboarded. Like it really is such a great solution. Um,
Yeah. And we
and
see that from, sorry to interrupt you, it's just,
no,
it's an
sorry.
interesting point and one we've heard from quite a few clients where traditionally using big consultancies, it's quite hard to be able to get some of the deep specialisms across the board because not it's not often that you'll find even within a fixed team in a big consultancy that you can really get a specific AI and people specialist who can
Yep.
speak human, for example. So yeah, it's just breaking down those barriers to accessing great talent.
Yeah, and also imagine how much better that would be on the fractional side to be able to be found, right? Because there is a lot of effort, being out in your own business, there is a lot of effort in, marketing yourself and finding clients and getting inbound, right? People interested. So this also helps on the other side as well, which I really like.
Yeah.
There was a question around, we're talking about fractionals, but I mean, fractional is kind of like thrown around, I think. This is really for external engagements, right? So whether you want to be like on a, like you said, a day rate, a day workshop, a 2 days a month for 3 months, a 1 year full-time contract, really like any kind of external engagement with an expert that has what you need is really what you're facilitating, whether you call it fractional, freelance, contract, interim, or whatever word you want to use, it covers it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, it definitely covers everything. At the minute, we're seeing a lot from like a longer term retained basis and a lot
Yeah,
of short, quick needs. But we are also exploring how we can support with longer term, more sort of maternity cover placements.
yeah,
And we're basically learning from our clients in the market as we go and making sure we're keeping up to date with our contracts and keeping up to date with the experts that we have on the
yeah.
platform who are verified to serve the needs. Because, like you said, Jess, it's definitely moving that way. And I think we've got a great starting point to build something great for what the next couple of years brings us.
Yeah, and I think I've written about this before in some of my content that I'm really in all in on the fact that in the future there will be a lot more gig work. There will be a lot more external workers in our workforce than there ever were before.
Yeah.
And I think that for smaller companies, getting external help into the team where needed, as you build for this phase, for that phase, makes a lot more sense than having like a person who is then therefore, thinking they've got a job forever, but that then you've actually got to lay them off because they're not right now, and then you've got to bring someone else in and then lay them off when it's not right now. And I think that's what we're seeing with these fast moving companies. You have phases of growth, you have phases of expertise needs, and you need to bring in someone who can, build the comp framework now and implement it, maybe hand it over to someone in the team, but then they can go. You don't need that person anymore. But now you need actually a performance management specialist to do this, or someone to roll out, a system or whatever it might be. And I do think that this is quite interesting for the future because I personally would build in that way if I was building, my team up. I would look
Yeah.
at how to even the senior person in HR. I think when small companies can be external for a period of time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think we are seeing it work really well for clients in that sort of startup scale up where they're trying to get to that next stage and they need, exactly as you say, this team to get them there. And it's sort of mirroring how we're seeing HR teams develop and the way people are
Yeah,
working. They they will often want to stay in control of a project. They don't want to
mhm,
hand the whole reins over. What they need is that sparring partner, that person to plan, to
yeah,
do the thing that they know they can't do. And I think the world in which we're living in now, where AI is also helping us do so many different tasks, we're really having to think a bit strategically about where we bring resource in.
yeah.
So in a flexible and a shorter term way to suit budgets and needs and the realities that HR teams are operating in just seems a much smarter way to go than having to sign up to full-time employments or sign up to longer term contracts, etc.
Exactly, where it's not needed, or potentially not needed, or I mean, of course, there'll always be a place for like internal people for certain things, but then there's a need for more, flexible engagements, and I think that's where we're going. We're actually really finding that out now. I think that we do need that. So I think
Yeah,
very timely to have this up. And
yeah,
if there's any other questions, I think someone asked around if there's able to find niche talent for India, people who would be able to work in, I guess, if I understood this question right, I hope. Anything to offer for someone based in India and helping with niche talent search. So I guess finding people to help a business in India. I
yeah,
guess it
yeah.
doesn't matter where you're located, right?
Yeah, what I would say is we are growing our experts daily, and we're also listening to the market as we're doing so. So at the moment, we have a lot of experts on the platform. We also have quite a waiting list essentially as we're trying to grow and scale this in line with clients' needs. So if you are using the platform, if you find that there isn't someone specifically that you're looking for, please do email. There's a lot of places to, and I can put it in the chat, there's a lot of places that reference our help email, and I'm pretty confident we will know somebody that could help solve that challenge. It might just be that they are not planned to be verified on the platform until August per se. So we have a really broad community of experts. So behind this platform lives a community we host somewhere else, and in there are hundreds and hundreds of experts that we're going through the verification process with, but they're also part of our just general wider community. So yeah, if you don't find what you're looking for, please do drop me an email or drop the support at an email, and we can definitely do some matchmaking.
Yeah, that's actually really powerful, isn't it? Having that whole network behind what you've got here, because I think that also helps that people know each other. There's a people who are on the platform also have some kind of connection point, not these random like individuals that don't really, have any kind of concept of who everyone else is quite nice. And obviously then a lot more powerful when you've got niche needs if they're not quite on the
Yeah,
platform yet. I know, you guys are bringing people on all the time, but there is a process for verification, which is why the trust is high, right? Because you have people who are
exactly.
actually verified before they go in and work. So you have to do, from my understanding, there's case studies and, submitting, evidence of what they've done before so that there can really be like a standard. And I think
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
really critical.
Yeah, and I think you're so right with the community piece. Like a lot of us that work at the TruthWorks have been independent before, so understand that it can be a lonely place. And like you were saying, they're spending so much time doing their sales and marketing that actually being able to be part of this community where they're sharing knowledge, they're supporting each other, they're learning across industries and across sectors and markets from the other experts is actually really powerful, not just for them, their self-learning and their development. It's also incredibly powerful for clients because they're essentially tapping into that hive mind and they're getting so much more for their money because
Mhm.
behind that expert, there is a wider community of resources and tools and knowledge.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all of this, Sophie. It's been wonderful to go through. I think we're at the end of today's session. We've seen how we can find talent. We've seen there's a new way. It's easy. You just literally log in and have a look if you need someone. And, the procurement can be very, very quick. So if you are obviously looking for someone, jump in and have a look. But otherwise, you now know that TruthWorks exists. So when people come up, in conversation, I always like to, support people building their own thing. This is, they're building as a team, they're female as well, founding team. It's really important that we support, businesses as well. So if this is something interesting for you, definitely share it. That's why I love doing these sessions as well, bringing awareness to new things on the market. And yeah, hope everyone has a great rest of the day. And Sophie, thank you very much for joining.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Great. And everyone, make sure you tune in for our next session. We have it tomorrow, State of HR Tech. We are going live with lots of data about HR Tech. We have lots more sessions coming up in the coming months. So make sure to subscribe to the Luma if you're not already. And we'll see you on the feed, I'm sure.